still get that freeze at night. And today we have Elana Johnson back
Hopefully.
because last time was a technical debacle from. I'm going to blame Facebook. There's no reason to blame anybody. It just didn't work out last time. But Elana agreed to come back, spend some more time with us, and hopefully we get some of her pearls of wisdom in the romance community. Where are you coming from, Elana?
I am in Utah, just south of Salt Lake, and our highs have been in the 40s too. It is cold here, like windy, bundling up when we go out in the afternoon to go to the park. So yeah, it's about where we are.
I disagree. 40s is warm.
It's warm. It's cold. I'm like freezing.
So when you guys go out, you is there a lot of people, or you just
No, not really. As part of our mandate for during this time, they do say you can go outside, go to parks and stuff. Our parks aren't closed. You have to be a resident of the park you go to. But I take the dogs every day for 20, 30 minutes, just let them run. And we see a few people, but not very many people.
Good.
Just supposed to practice if you do run into people, you're 6 feet, social distancing and things like that. So it's good for the dogs to get out every once in a while, or else they drive us nuts. So
good. Well, and that's the fresh air. I tell you what, nothing like fresh air and sunshine to make everybody feel better.
Yep, get out of the house for a minute.
And it makes you a little healthier. I think over the years, as we've improved how houses seal, we close them up tighter and tighter. It becomes unhealthier and more unhealthy because now you're sucking in your own dead skin and dust and stuff like that. And you need that fresh air. The old drafty houses, those people were healthy. Now they died in their 40s from heart attacks, but it's something completely different.
Give or take.
Yeah. But that drafty house was always a little bit healthier because you got unless you lived in like a coal mining community or something where there was more bad air outside than in. But generally, we actually have a full house filter in our house because we're 5+ energy rating. Because of where we live, we have triple pane windows. Everything seals up tight, like being on the inside of a balloon. So this whole house filter exchanges the airs. You run it for, I think, 4 hours, and it'll completely exchange the air inside the house. Because during the winter, we might button up for 6 months.
Yeah, I bet you do. We live right across the street from a river, so we open our front doors, got a nice screen, and open the back door and kind of get some flow that way. Yeah.
Nice. Well, okay, it looks like people are online and we're here, and it looks like we'll record easily. We've done our inane small talk, and now we're ready to get into the meat and potatoes of what this all is all about. So when you started writing, let's pick Western romance. When you started writing that, how did you prepare yourself to write in that genre?
So I had been writing young adult science fiction and fantasy for a couple of years. I have some books out with Simon & Schuster through that genre. And I kind of was like, I don't really like writing this. I couldn't really sell another book. They said they wanted the same thing, but then I gave them the same thing, and then they said it was too close to what I already have. So, you get some mixed messages from people sometimes. And so I was in a petite group, and we met every other week. So I had a couple of friends that were writing romance. I'd always included romantic elements in my books. So I was like, I think I can do that. And I wrote a couple of really bad romances because I didn't really understand what they were and what readers really expected. And my friend told me about this contest called So You Think You Can Write. And Harlequin does it. And I was like, okay, I'll look at that. And I had written a romance, and we were putting it through my critique group, and it was cowboys. I thought, what do I like? I like cowboys. I'll do a cowboy romance. And so I did. And Harlequin for the contest was love inspired. So that means it needs to be inspirational, Christian type thing. So I was like, I can do that too. So I started kind of reworking the book, and I realized I probably should figure out what this genre really is, like what do readers really want from it. So I started reading just everything I could find in the genre at the time. And this was late 2014, early 2015. So I did. I mean, I read everything. I read Denise Hunter and I read Becky Wade. I read just straight up inspirational romances. I probably read 50 Harlequin books from their love inspired line. I read everything I could find in that genre to kind of see what was going on there already, because it's not a new genre, you know. I mean, it's pretty old.
No.
It's old. So, and throughout the course of my career, you know, I used to do all kinds of things in the traditional publishing sphere, and have blogged for Query Tracker and all kinds of things. And like, I've written books on how to write query letters and all that kind of stuff. And like, for what I do, I'm a very visual person. So I would read and then I would write down things that I saw that were happening. And over time, as I did book after book, I'd be like, this happens in every book. This happens in every book. This kind of happens in every book. And I kind of realized what some of the quote unquote expectations were for that genre. And so then I started looking at my own books going, well, I do this, and maybe I just did that innately, but I don't do this, and I don't do this, and I don't do this. So I might need to figure out how to incorporate these kinds of elements into my books to make sure that I'm hitting the notes that readers want. So that, you know, that was the ultimate goal. I don't think I really realized that at the time. My mindset at the time was not on what do readers want. That was not something that I even really thought about until much later. Much later. But at the time, I was like, this is what Harlequin is publishing in this line, and I want to enter this contest. So I should try to make my book kind of fit their line, because I knew traditional publishing and I knew imprints, and I know that every imprint has a type of book that they want to publish.
Very much so.
Very much so. So I was like, okay, I'm going to find out what that is for Harlequin, and I'm going to try to give it to them. And so I went pretty far in that contest. I went to the semifinals, which was actually really good for me, because I was in what I call my dark days of publishing for about 2 years there. I was like, this is it. I'm not going to publish another book, and I like this writing thing, but it's just not happening for me. So whatever, you know. But that semifinals kind of rejuvenated me and reminded me that I can write, I can put together a story that people like. And at that point, I decided to create a pen name and publish those books. Because at the time, my Elana Johnson brand was science fiction and fantasy. That's what she wrote. And I had some other books out in that genre that I had been self-publishing. They were all young adult. And this was an adult, you know, semi-Christian. I call mine Christian light. I think they're pretty light on that element, but they definitely have it in it. And I decided to create Liz Isaacson, and she published that book that went to the semifinals in September of 2015. The contest was started in like March. So I think I found out that I wasn't going to go any farther in like July. And I thought, okay, I'm going to figure out how to get this book out there, just because I think my confidence was renewed. I felt like I'd read enough. I had a pretty good romance. My critique group had workshopped it with me, and I was ready to do something with it. So I did.
And since then, how many books have you written in that genre?
So Liz probably has. I was doing my assets the last few weeks. I'm trying to get my estate together so that if I die, you know, somebody can have access to that estate.
Sure.
Which is good. It's good, smart planning. There's your tip, authors.
It's long-term planning. It's not, I'm going to die right now. Not at all. It's peace of mind. That's all. It's like an insurance policy. Yeah. Nobody sweat the load. Elana and I are not dying. Not today, anyway.
Not today. But, you know, I just thought I've been, you know, I take a lot of classes and watch a lot of things. And I watched this one on what will you do? What will your heirs do with your books? And I was like, I was blank. I don't know. So I was like, okay, I better figure that out. So I've been working on that. I wish I would have started it, you know, 5 years ago when I first started publishing and had IP and assets, but it's okay. I'm getting caught up. I think with box sets, so box sets I don't really count, but single titles, we're looking at 90. Box sets pushes it over 100. So, and then I publish under Elana as well. So combined with those two names, I think I'm up to about 150 titles that I manage at the moment.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you've been writing for a while, and you write consistently. You said even right now you're publishing a book a month, right?
Yep. I published a book last week, and I'm writing my June book right now. I'm about halfway through it, and it will come out beginning of June. I just published first week of the month, every month for Liz, and then Elena does every other month now, because I just think it's better for her fans. She doesn't have quite as many fans as Liz, and I feel like I can get more time to make the books longer. So I've been making those books longer. I was writing shorter books, 30, 35,000, and now I'm writing 60 for
Yeah.
Elena. And Liz, I've taken from about 50 to about 75, 80. So I'm writing about twice the book, and I can't keep up with both names every month. So I've just been doing Liz every month because she's for sure my big name, my breadwinner, and then I do Elena. I kind of call Elena on the side, and I know I talk about them in third person. It's kind of weird, but you know.
Elena is you. Oh, and Liz is you too. But this is you putting on your business hat, and you're separating these two entities from a business perspective, and that's great.
And they both write romance now. So Elena was writing the science fiction fantasy. I moved into the adult genre with that as well. I won the Kindle Scout program and had some stuff published by Amazon that was in fantasy and things like that. But I kind of was like, I really just like writing romance. I really just like the romance. I like the high angst of the relationship. I like the you know, when do I say I love you? I like the come, the go, the pull apart, come back together. I like all that. So I was like, you know what? I'm just what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna write romance from now on. But I've had people ask me, why didn't you just put your Elena romances under your Liz romances, your Liz name? And for me, that was a branding choice. So Liz has a very distinct, specific brand, and I decided that. And there's tons of people who move all around inside romance. And I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong and what I'm doing is right. But for me, what I decided to do with Liz is if it wasn't a cowboy and it wasn't Christian, it wasn't going to have her name on it. So that's all she does. So every time you get a Liz book, that's what you get. Now, Elena is a little bit more fluid within she writes clean and wholesome still, but she's more fluid. So she'll do billionaires and she'll do firefighters and she'll do straight up beach romances and she'll do paramedics and she'll just do like even nothing, like just small town. So she's very fluid in that regard, where Liz is not.
For a sweet romance, she's doing a lot of guys. So I'm not.
That's true.
I'm at a loss here. I thought sweet meant something different, but anyway, you've explained it. That's good enough. But no, the Christian Western. What makes them different than a historical romance set in the West?
So none of mine are historical. All of my romances are contemporary. Now you can have a Christian Western that's also historical. So there's lots of people that write those as well. And that's what my friend was writing at Harlequin when she told me about the contest. She was writing for their love-inspired historical line, and she was which they've now discontinued. But she was writing these sort of Christian Westerns that were historical, and mine are not. So I do call them Western because they are Western romances, but they're not Western in the type where we're talking about gunslingers and train robberies and, you know, those kinds of Westerns where we've got that rugged cowboy on the cover, where it might have an aspect of romance in it, but it's really like an action adventure type of Western type of thing. So mine are Western simply because they take place with cowboys, mostly in Texas and Montana. I have some in California, some in Utah. But that's all.
Just cowboys that drive trucks?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Okay. Not
I don't have any cowboys who drive trucks specifically, but, you know, it's all ranch-based, farm-based, ranch-based. Very Western lifestyle, very much the cowboy, sort of cowboy church attitude, the love of the land, the love of America, the love of specifically Texas. I don't know if you're familiar with Texas, but Texas is like my soul state. And so I finally went there. I have a lot of books set in Texas, and I finally went there last year, and it's incredible. Like I've never seen anything like it. So I really, the love of Texas that Cowboys have, I'm like, this is my soul people here. So if you're from Texas, you know, I think you get it. But I mean, they've got that Texas star all everywhere. They all have it on their house, their gate,
Yeah.
their ranch, everywhere. They have like huge pride in being Texan. And like, I don't see that in Utah. So maybe you do where you live, but I'm like, man, I'm a real bad citizen.
Yeah,
Don't love
I tell you what, it's comparable up here. Alaska, people like being Alaskan,
yeah.
and they'll show the blue flag with the Big Dipper on it, which is our state flag,
Yeah.
and you'll see that everywhere. And people are just proud to be an Alaskan, hot Alaskan chick. Code 907. 907 is one area code for all of Alaska, and Alaska is 2.5 times the size of Texas, and we
Right.
have one area code and 650,000 total people.
Yeah. Well, so you get it. I didn't get it. And like, I'd heard that, I mean, obviously Texas wanted to be its own country historically, right? So I was like, okay. But like when I went there, I was like, oh, these people are serious about being Texan. And I really liked that. And I bought a book on how to be Texan. Like, it's my soul state. I love it. And so
and that's your target demographic. You're writing and other people, as you found, and you do very, very well in this genre. So that obviously is a hook that keeps your readers engaged.
Yeah. So I really try to bring those aspects of cowboys, the historical aspect of a cowboy. You know, he's loyal, he's true, he's honest, he's trustworthy, all those kinds of things. And that kind of naturally fed into the inspirational genre anyway. And so it kind of seemed like a real natural fit the more I wrote it and the more I learned about cowboys and things like that. So that's why I categorize them as Western, because I try to bring in some of those really traditional Western feelings of being an honorable cowboy who loves his family, loves God, loves his community, loves his country, all that kind of stuff. And then of course you bring in horses and dogs, and what else do you need?
Yeah. Do you listen to country music whilst writing those?
I don't. I do listen to music while I write, and I'll listen to anything. I have nothing against country, but I don't specifically cue up country. My music of choice is Dear Evan Hansen. So
did you say Britney Spears?
No, Dear Evan Hansen. I love
okay.
Broadway musicals, so I listen to Dear Evan Hansen, the whole soundtrack. I'm going to say at least once a day, maybe more.
Well, as long as it works. What kind of word count are you getting each day?
So yesterday I did 11,000. Day before that I did almost 13. So It just depends. I'm kind of in a little crunch right now because I feel like I'm a little bit behind. I think it just depends on what I'm doing. Last week I had one day where I don't want to be like disparaging only, but for me, I typically write 8 plus a day, 5 to 6 days a week, depending on what I'm doing and where I'm at. Last week I had a day where I only wrote 26. Like I only wrote one chapter that day. But most of the time I'm writing 3 to 4 chapters a day, 8 to 10,000 words, real average for me. If I'm getting more than that, it's because I'm kind of in a panic. So the book I'm writing right now comes out 7 weeks from yesterday, and I'm about 20,000 of my 75,000. So I'm really hoping to push it, get it done by middle of next week, because then I can let it sit, I can edit it, I can send it to the proofreader. I really like to be 2 months out. So.
Okay. That's a good timeline. How do you schedule your editor?
So I have an assistant that I pay to do it. So I pay her a monthly fee every month. And then when I have a book, I send it to her and I say, here's your next book. Like, I mean, I kind of give her a heads up, like, hey, I'll probably be done with this book on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'll be sending it to you. But we were talking before we went live about our housekeepers and stuff, and mine are still coming, and Craig's is not. So sad for him.
But I am still paying her.
Yes.
So just for reference. But just not coming to the house right now.
Not in the house. She has a cleaning business. So my assistant has a cleaning business. So she's not doing a whole lot right now anyway. And so I started having her do my audiobooks, proofing those and stuff. So she's been doing a lot of work for me the last couple months. So I pay her that monthly fee. She does some social media for me, and then I just basically have her on call as read my books and give me feedback and kind of proof them and do all that kind of stuff for me when they come. And then I've been paying her on top of that to do the audio. She does a proofing, so she'll listen to it and do mistakes for me and mistakes for the narrator. She's fast at that too because she's not really doing much else. So
good, and that's putting a editor on retainer. I did that for a couple years, and now I have priority with my editors, even though I have them spread out. Now I have a few different ones that I use, and I give them a heads up. Same thing. I'm like, hey, I'll have a book just because I'm hit or miss. I'm not hitting. When I had one on retainer, I was giving her 100,000 words a month every month, and I needed them back quickly because of my cycle of production and publication. So that is a way you can get there. But scheduling your editor, one thing that, and this, Michael Anderle set the standard, and I agreed with it wholeheartedly, is I'm not going to set my editor and say I have a book, and they'll say I'll get you in 6 months from now. Well, then you need to find a different editor. I'm not going to sit on a finished book for 6 months. No. That's the TradPud methodology of it doesn't matter because we're not going to publish it until January when we could get into the bookstores, the twice a year entry points into bookstores. We're not limited by that as indies publishing ebooks. So you mentioned your initial books were like 30 and 40,000 were shorter works. Now you're going longer. Are you in KU?
Yeah, I'm in KU. So, okay. Liz's first book was 65,000 words because that was a Harlequin requirement. Yeah. And so I kind of kept it close to that when I went through the edits and stuff. And when I was first starting, obviously, I hired an editor and she was like, I can do this in 6 weeks. I was like, great, because I didn't really have a timeline at that time. Yeah. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it is for me now. As I write more and publish more and manage both brands, I used to write 3 to 6 months out, but now I'm really more like 7 to 10 weeks out, six to 10 weeks out. And so I find that's it still gives me a little bit of a panic attack. I know people who write and then edit and then upload and the book is out the next day. And I think that's great and that works for them. And it doesn't work for me and my personality. It comes from my day job, which I don't have anymore, but when I was working, I taught elementary school for a long time, and I couldn't handle the pressure of writing and editing and publishing and working. Like I needed time to be like, I don't want to work today for 16 hours. So that's kind of why I do what I do. And I love pre-orders. I have a love affair with pre-orders. I put up 3 yesterday, so we're not going to talk about that. But I love them. And so for me, I needed that cushion to save my sanity. And so that's what's worked for me. And it's just what I've been doing for so long that it's what I've had to do to stay sane. But I think that I realized after I was kind of writing these 65,000 word books that they didn't have to be that long. So most of my Liz stuff was between 50, 55. And then my Elana stuff is definitely shorter. I am in KU, and I've been getting the KU bonus for a little over a year now, pretty consistently every month. And I thought, you know what? Like, it is a lot of work to get a new reader. It's a lot of work. Spending a lot of money on ads. I'm spending a lot of money on marketing. I'm doing a lot of content marketing on my page, sending my newsletter every week that I really try to engage with fans. I've got a reader group, and I really try to engage with them every day, 5 days a week, sometimes over the weekend. Like I'm doing a lot of work to get these people and keep them. And I thought, what if I wrote a book that was a little bit longer? And this was novel for me, so don't judge me. But I was like, what if I wrote a book that instead of was like 30,000 words, it was 60,000 words? I would legit only have to get half as many people to read it in KU, and I would make the same amount of money. I was like, I have been doing this wrong for years.
And
So
if you kept the exact same number of readers and you doubled the length, you doubled your money.
that's right.
It's just a crazy concept.
And I didn't even realize it. I want to say like last summer, like less than a year ago, I was like, why am I wasting? I wasn't wasting my time. I have a really hard time saying I wasted my time. I don't want to say I wasted my time. I learned from something I did. I was like, what have I been doing all this time? So I made a decision at that time to double Elena's books to 60. And Elena's not going to write any books that were less than 60. And so she's been doing that since like October, November-ish. All her books have been 60 plus. And then I upped Liz's books starting in September last year to 70 plus, and some of the later books in my series are up to 80, 82, 84, simply because by the time you've got 7 books out in a series, there's a lot of people, there's a lot going on, there's a whole town and world, and it just seems a little bit longer to get through it. So that's what I've been doing since then.
I agree wholeheartedly. In my Terry Henry Walton series, I've got the first book was 57,000 words. It was a test. How's the market receive this book? The third book, I think, was only 51,000 words. It's like, okay, hey, these are selling really, really well. So now as we added characters, the ninth book is 117,000 words. Yeah. And when you break these out and look at the books and we analyze revenue always looking at sales. Yeah. Book 1, because we marketed the holy hell out of that one, is the number 1 leading earner for that series, and book 9 is a very, very close second.
Yes,
a single book
makes more money.
Cover, single editing job, and all of a sudden it makes and now that's good read through, of course.
Yes,
and then but it's still, look at this. So 117,000, not out of the realm. My last 2 books that I wrote, both were targeted for 60,000. One was 84, and the other one was 74. Yeah. So if you've got the plots and it's subplot, don't add fluff. Don't add stuff that'll turn your readers off and they'll dive out. Add a subplot. Hey, here's a person in my town that I haven't mentioned lately. Let me make something interesting with this character and dive in every now and then, and all of a sudden 70, 75,000, unleash it upon the world. And it's easy, especially if you're in KU. If you're wide, completely different ballgame. But if you're in KU and you can keep the same number of readers, and then you increase your profit, your revenue that much more. And how have you done in the last 6 months? What has been that increase in percentage in revenue?
A lot, but I've been pouring a lot more money into advertising too. So, I mean, I put up a post in the group at the end of January about what had happened, but I mean, last August, November, I'm, making, $50,000 a month, and I doubled that in 3-4 months. Increased spend, longer books. Those longer books with that increased spend has raised the brand overall. So I was just looking at this yesterday and talking with a friend about it, and what I was looking historically at my data by series, because I have quite a few series, and I realized yesterday, because it takes time to analyze things, and I realized that in the last 6 months with my increased spend, bringing more readers into the brand with I think a series that has been one of my absolute best, which I can't really pinpoint why, which I wish I could say this is what I did so I can do it again myself. But honestly, I have 9 series now under Liz, and some are winners and some aren't. Like, I can put money on a books and I can move books for a little bit, but it kind of dies after that. And then I choose a different book and I can put money on that book and it will just go. So it's either whatever the book looks like at the time, the advertising at the time, markets shift all the time. And so, but this series was one of my winners. It's just one of the ones that seemed to do well. And so I've brought a lot of people into that series. It is my longer series. I have focused more on the family. It's still a romance. It's got a core romance in it, but then I have included the family as well. So it's almost like a family saga. It's part women's fiction, where there's quite a few quite a few chapters from just women and the women getting together. And then of course your core central romance with the cowboy, which is what a lot of my readers want. They want that core romance with the cowboy, but they love family as well because they're very family oriented. So my readers are very family oriented, and I put a family in this book. I mean, the mother narrates a couple chapters throughout several of the books, which isn't cool. Really, you don't see that in a romance. So it's a little bit different, but it has been a real winner for me. And as I started releasing those books and advertising those books and really bringing people into those books, my whole brand has lifted. So I was looking at some of my series yesterday, and across probably 4 of them, they make $700 to $800 more every month, simply because the brand is bigger. So I can bring people into one point where they're entering, and then it's because I have so many books, they can read all those books. And so that the whole brand has lifted because of that. So I'm making more money overall as a brand simply because I'm bringing more people in. But yeah, I mean, I've doubled that income in the last 6 months, which has been really good. It's been positive for me. Not every release is going to be the same, of course. So I just kind of work through what I expect for every release and what I hope it will be, and kind of drive people to what I hope they'll do in the future. So every book for me is that. Every book a person reads by me, I want them to go, okay, I want to read the next one by her. By her, so that they'll read everything I've got.
Have you done a survey of your readers, of the Liz Isaacson readers?
Yep, I survey them all the time. So I'll survey them through my newsletter. I'll survey them through my reader group. So I ask them things like, what was the first book you read by me? I ask them things like, who's your favorite character? I ask them, what's your favorite movie? Like everything, not just of stuff that I do, but everything, because I want to know who they are and what they like. So no, go ahead.
That goes to managing reader expectations, because you learn what they like, and now how do you use that information to help you better serve their needs and give them books that they want to read?
So I mean, I wrote a romance a couple years ago where the guy was 48 and the woman was like 41. So that's not old by any means, but they were older. I mean, a lot of romances take place in late 20s, early 30s. And I had so many positive comments from my readers saying, I'm so glad that this man is older. I love that these people are more mature, you know? And I thought, there's something here. So I wrote a whole series of 40 plus, and that series did really well, and people seem to really like that. And now I've kind of settled my brand in that late 30s, early 40s area, because that's what I realize my people like. They'll read an earlier romance as well. They'll read a late 20s, early 30s romance. But what they really like is someone that's closer to their age, who acts a little bit more mature in a relationship, because they have a little bit more life experience. And so I think there's a good place for those other romances as well. But I've really settled my Liz brand at this time, which could change at any time, in the upper range. Most of my characters are close to 40, above 40. I've written some in their 50s and 60s, and my people love them. And that all comes from feedback that I get from them, that they either tell me voluntarily or that I ask them. So in my reader group, like I said earlier, I really try to interact with them 5 days a week at least. And usually only one of those posts is a promotional, my book's coming out, have you read this book, blah, blah, blah. Or I've got a sale on this book or whatever. All of the other posts are meant for me to learn who they are, what they like in their regular lives, what they spend their time doing. I asked them last week how many books a week they read. And it's mind-blowing what they read. Like, I can't even fathom what they read.
There's people reading like 10 to 20 books a week. It's like, how are you not blind?
And yeah, and I'm like, okay. And like, I'll put up a book in, you know, for my review crew or whatever. And it's, you know, I've spent 3 weeks writing it, which is a long time. And some people are like, it only takes you 3 weeks, which I get. We take a long time to write our books. and we edit them, and we need to get a cover. And I feel like by the time I have this package ready for you, I've like invested hundreds of hours and time and love and care, and they come back on 4 hours later and they're like, love it, when's the next one? I'm like, it's been 4 hours.
Yep.
I can't keep up. So
inhale the books. Indeed.
And that's what I want. I'd want all of those people to come to me. I've got a lot of books, so I want all of those people to come to me, because then if they'll read through my whole list, that just raises my brand across the board. So my advertising, sometimes I look at it by series and I'm like, oh, I'm only getting like 1 to 2.5, 1 to 3 ROI. But then as I was analyzing the actual brand yesterday, I thought, no, this advertising over the last 6 months has raised your brand by a lot more than 1 to 2.5.
Yes.
So that was valuable for me to look at that and go, okay, what I've been doing has been really good, not just for this series that is now kind of dying, but for the brand, which is uplifted over time.
The easiest way to calculate ROI is have out a single book. The easiest way to make money is have out a lot of books. So, and as your brand and you backlist, because it's really hard to see sometimes how somebody came into one of your other backlist books if they've read one of your other books and then read that series, unless you engage with them. Because I get a lot of my readers say, oh, I love this. Here's where I started. And then I picked up this series, loved it, then went to this series. I like seeing those different progressions, but you don't get that data, because you might hear from one fan out of 100, 1 out of 10 on a good day. So you have to interpolate what those other 9 are doing and how you've engaged with them. The best thing you can get is I had to keep reading your book, and when's the next one? And that's if in Amazon now for your books, especially in a series, they'll put those keywords up above your reviews. Here's common things like can't wait. Those you want those as your and that's an ego stroke. Yeah. Other things might be some trends you see if they mention things, and looking for where you are. Looking at your relationship with your editor. You've written 150 books. How are you improving your books as you go forward?
That's such a hard question. So I really like to learn stuff. Typically, if it's motivating for me to learn, I'm kind of shallow. I really like to just read for fun. But if I think, hey, this is going to increase what I can do with my time, so I'm really big into productivity. This is going to increase what I can do with my marketing. I'm really big into taking classes and watching videos for that. And then for me, I'm like, I want to deliver the best cowboy book out there. Like, it's okay because you read 20 books a week, that you can't read one of mine every time. But when you get done with another cowboy book, I want you to think, yeah, that was good, but I can't wait for Liz's to come out, right? Like, and I hope that's not arrogant, but that's what I want for myself. And I'm glad there's other books that readers can read, but I really want them to go, but I will stop reading this book when hers comes out, because I want to read one of hers. So for me, I really want my craft to be really good. And so for me, one of the biggest things and best things that I learned was through being edited. So I've been heavily edited for many years through traditional publishing, which taught me a lot about how to craft things. And then as I kind of stopped being heavily edited by a professional editor, which, I mean, I still have a professional editor. We still have professional editors. That came out wrong. Just because they work at a publishing house doesn't mean they're only professional editors. But I just think every editor that I work with, I learn something new from. So then I've got that in my arsenal that I can take into my draft when I write. And so I really work hard on making sure that as I'm writing, sometimes I can still hear the voice of whatever editor that I've worked with over time going, do we have to say that? what does that really mean? What is this it standing for? What does this do? Is this really what you're trying to say? And really, as I'm writing, I get a lot better at that. And then over the years, I take courses. So I'm a member of RWA, which I know has had a lot of problems recently, but they have a university online called RWAU that you can sign up for classes for. And they're like 30, 35 bucks, and it's online, and it's a month long. And I've probably taken 24 on how to write better heroes, how to include emotion in your romance, how to sound like a man when you're a woman, because you got to write from a man's point of view, and how to create voice, how to craft character, how to do pacing. Pacing is one of my weaknesses. So I think sometimes even recognizing what your weaknesses are is a really good thing that you can do as an author. So I know that pacing is not, I'm still not good at it. I learned that with my first book that I sold to Simon & Schuster, that I am not great at pacing. And so I studied pacing. I got books. I read some by Stephen King, and I started studying. I asked people for recommendations. Like, so what I did is I asked my editor, I'm like, well, what books would you recommend that have really great pacing? And not author help books. So the one I read was by Sol Stein, which I love, but fiction. What does she think is good pacing in fiction? And she gave me 4 or 5 titles, and I read them all. And I was like, okay, so what is going on here that I'm not doing with the pacing? And again, I'm really visual. I've got tons of notebooks. I write it all down. Now, something that I write everything down, but I never go back to it. It's really, I don't know why, but I figured I read it, I learn it, I write it down, it's there. And then I feel like if I need to go back to it, I can, but I would say that 99% of the time, I don't ever go back to anything that I've written down and taken notes on. I kind of just assimilate it in. I'm kind of like the Borg. I'm like, let's assimilate this and go from here. So recognize your weaknesses, take classes on it. I've taken classes from Margie Lawson. I did a whole big thing there where I learned how to highlight a manuscript with different colors, with every single word belongs to something in the story. And if it doesn't drive character or plot or emotion or narrative, like I'm not using it. Like I really feel like I've tried to do that. Still go to conferences, try to learn as much as I can. Read, you gotta read. So I still read books that, even if I'm like, I don't really like this book, it's a bestseller, so it's hitting something. Yeah. It's hitting something for someone, and probably a lot of people. So what is it about this book that's hitting for people that I can learn from? So I really try to read what's out there that's at the top of my genre. Even if I don't like it, even if it's not a cowboy, I read every cowboy romance that comes out. So as many as I can. So, I mean, there's a lot that come out. I mean, pretty much all Harlequin bought for like 2 years was cowboys. So they put out a lot of cowboy books, but there's a lot more indies in cowboys now. And so I read every one that comes out. I recommend them to my list if I like them. I just want to see what other people are doing. I want to see what's winning for them that I can maybe try to make win for me too.
Okay. That's great. That's great. The process, somebody commented, the process of writing it down helps solidify it in your mind. Same for me. I take a lot of notes, and I will never look back through them. Now, my list, I have checklists. Now, those I need to go back through and look, because I just put a checklist. I'm not trying to permanently put that in my memory. I just wanted to, so I can check it off later at some point. So I had to copy over a couple items this morning even. But learning is a great thing. And one thing I wanted to bring up is, do you know that the masterclass, the videos are having a 2-for-1 sale, $180 for a year of unlimited. I know that James Patterson, I think Neil Gaiman has a class up there. So look up the master class.
Yeah, my friend took the James Patterson one. She really liked it. So I should do that. I've never done a master class. So I'll put that up.
It's a 2-for-1. So maybe run a giveaway for your fans. Hey, I've got one to give away. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
You can't give them both away, as I found out, because you have to personally sign up to buy them. So yeah, because I can't stream up here, and I bought a 2-for-1. I'm like, damn it. So yeah, I had one for a year and then couldn't use it.
Oh,
but that's something, and everybody that's listening, that's something to do as well. Last time I gave away the extra one to somebody in 20 books, just to make sure. Hey, here it is.
Yeah, that's good.
But I like how you cultivate the relationship with your readers. And as a consultant, one of the things I would always advise clients is shine the spotlight on the behavior you want to change, like, and what you've done with your pacing. Hey, this is a problem. I'm going to attack it from all these different ways.
Yeah.
If your problem is production, shine the spotlight on that, and now start remove other distractions to what production is. If your issue is marketing, there's people have serious hindrances with marketing. All they think is the annoying guy yelling at them as they're walking down the mall. Hey, do you need a cell phone cover, or something, and bothering them. And that's not what marketing is. Marketing is the brand decisions. Liz Isaacson does cowboys. She does fire, and Elana does firefighters. She does cowboys. She does all kinds of people. It's weird.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Poor Elana. Poor Elana. What a bad rep. But Liz, you talked about brand. When did you decide this is how I'm going to shape my brand?
Gosh, honestly, not until later on, because when I started self-publishing, I did some self-publishing in 2014 as well. So I wasn't like one of the early pioneers or anything. But honestly, I didn't even hear or know the term writing to market or brand until like 2017. Like, honestly, it wasn't something that people were talking about. There weren't groups on Facebook. Like, if you're kind of into self-publishing in the indie sphere in the last 2 or 3 years, it's kind of, you don't understand that, because 20 Books has been around. I think 20 Books kind of came around in, I don't know what year, 2017-ish? 16. I joined 20 Books when there was like 2,000 people in it. So it was pretty early on, I feel like, I don't know. And then, I don't know, I was like, oh, there's this indie group. That's interesting, you know. At the time, I think there was one other indie group that I was a member of that Susan K. Quinn was running. And she has disbanded her group now. And like, there weren't indie groups. You didn't get on Facebook and go talk with other indie authors. It wasn't a thing that people did. And so I learned to self-publish from some friends of mine that were self-publishing. And I literally called my friend and was like, I need you to teach me how to format. Like, vellum wasn't a thing, and I needed to know how to do it, and she knew how to do it, and we got together for lunch, and she taught me because she lived by me, you know? So I didn't hear things like brand or to market or make sure that you look at other people's. I didn't do any of that for years. I think it was about 2017, probably middle of 2017, and I was like, oh, have I been doing this? And as I kind of looked back, I kind of realized that I had been doing it, simply because that's what I liked writing. I liked writing these cowboys, and I'd managed to get them to sell a little bit, because I had done some self-publishing in 2014, like I said, and it didn't go well. I wasn't making any money. And pretty much my attitude for 2014, 15, those are my dark years. I would hear people say, you know, some people were moving over from traditional to indie, and they were saying things like, I make more money being an indie. And my literal initial reaction was, you're lying. That's not true. Because I was doing it too, and I was not making any money, none. And so, I mean, in 2015, I made $1,500 in 12 months. All of 2015, I made $1,500. And 1,000 of that came in December, when my second Liz Isaacson book came out. So you got to think, I wasn't making any money. And I had like 10, 12 Elana Johnson young adult stuff out. They're all down now, so don't worry, you can't get them. But I mean, I had books out, you know, and I wasn't making. I thought, you guys are all lying. And then when Liz came out and she was writing romance, and she had her second book came out, and it made 4 figures that December, and I was like, okay, maybe these people aren't lying. And then her third book came out in February. I was doing every 11 weeks at the time, because Amazon was doing a 12-week pre-order. And I was like, I want that link. And when February hit, or maybe it was March, beginning of March, I can't remember, I made $5,000 that month. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, this is a massive, huge game changer for me. I mean, that was twice what I was making teaching a month. I had 3 books out. I mean, there was no advertising. I mean, Facebook had advertising, but I didn't know about it. And there was no AMS ads. And this was just, my book was out and people were reading it. And I was making the earlier books free at 99 cents. So brand awareness, I want to say when I thought Elana should write romance instead of science fiction and fantasy, and I wanted to quote unquote rebrand her, that's when I started thinking about brand. So mid 2017, late 2017, I thought, this is what Liz's brand is going to be. What do I want Elena's brand to be? And so then I had to start cleaning up all that science fiction fantasy. I took a bunch of books down. I got rights back, blah, all that stuff. So the branding has really come into play for me the last 2 full years with branding and marketing, and just really trying to stick to what I say I'm going to deliver to people.
And this brings to mind one of my favorite quotes of all time from Star Trek, of course. When Earth girls say, "It's not you, it's her," it's definitely you. So when you're looking at it, why am I not selling books? First, no advertising. That's a difficult thing. But you weren't in your wheelhouse, because
Right.
you said, now I love writing romance. I love reading romance, and I enjoy the feedback of people who read my romance. So you found that perfect spot between what I like and what sells, and you're in that sweet spot, and you deliver, and it's amazing what happens when you deliver. Oh, 41 to 48. Oh my God, they love this. Let me write another one. Oh my God, it sells like hotcakes. So that's called right to market. Now, you didn't find it. Now, you publish enough books that you can gather your own data. Okay, the 30 something love fests, that's cool, but the 48, 41, the mature characters resonate better. My fans are older. Hey, guess what? It's not a surprise that your fans look just like you.
Yeah.
And that is, I think people find that more and more, because now you're writing from a position of write what you know. Hey, I kind of know this generation. I relate. When I throw in an Easter egg of a TV show, it's one I watched growing up, and my fans probably watched too. So these are all things. I grew up reading Andre Norton and Robert Heinlein, and my fans almost like 80-90% love Andre Norton and Robert Heinlein. And they like, hey, I love your stuff. It reminds me of.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And also that's a way to keep them on board. You keep them fed, as it may be. So let's see if we have any questions. We're 52 minutes. We've got time for 1 question. Okay, maybe 4. I don't know. Make them good ones. Hit us with questions, people. I know we've been going off and just going on diatribes of conversation, but there's so much here. Learning things, studying your craft. Elana was making $50,000 a month and wasn't satisfied, because with ads it wasn't growing. I've made consistently like $25,000 a month for 3 years now, and what am I doing? I see dips. I see new releases. I released 30 books last year by this time, and this year I've released 4. And I have the exact same revenue as last year after I released 30 books. So what am I doing right? What do I need to lose? Now, this year I've cut a lot of my costs, so my profitability is way up this year. And I'm producing a lot fewer books. I'm writing the vast majority of what I'm producing, and I don't use ghostwriters. We co-author and work back and forth, but still, it's 90-10. I might add 10% to a book, as opposed to the ones I write where it's 100%. So the knowing your business. Now, I'll take my business hat off after this. I'm rewriting a mystery series. I started the first book this morning because I finished my short story yesterday, 11,000 words. And getting that, rewriting that mystery series into it, even though sci-fi is my wheelhouse, I've got 9 books that didn't resonate last year. And I'm like, okay, I went through, did some analysis. This is what I need to do to tweak these up, need to target, got all new covers. And 9 books, the longest is 30,000, the shortest is 17,000. So they're novellas. And I'm I talked to Michael Anderle last year, and despite how much the stab right in the heart, because these have 9 killer covers. These covers are probably the best covers of any of my, almost the best covers of any of my books. And we put them into a box set, so I can only show 1 cover out of those 9. So I'm gonna release it, because I said, hey, what do you think of a week release every week? And he's like, just put it in 1 box set, release that way, and then you're guaranteed your read through, because the question is read through on 30,000 word books. You got to keep that marketing campaign going, but I can publish all 9. Now I've got a 250,000 word book. KU, if they keep reading, because if they have to go look for another book, they might not read if it's only kind of good and not great. Whereas if they're reading and they got hey, just turn the page, keep going. Oh, hey, this next one's story. Yeah, it's got a good hook, and keep. And so, yeah, 1 box set. I've got 8 covers that are righteous that readers won't see. So so I got that going for me. But I'm going to rewrite that, and I'm going to crank on it, because I love the story. I love the craft. But the business hat, I'll put on my business hat and do a lot of that stuff today, as I have already, which I'm sure you have. Describe what your typical day looks like.
So I'm a little jacked up right now because my daughter does online school, but typically I'm up at 6:30, and we get ready, we go to school, and I get home. I drive her to school at 7:45. I'm on the treadmill at 8. I'm working out for an hour. At 9 I do a power hour of marketing. I always market for an hour in the morning. 10 comes, and who knows what that day's gonna look like. Sometimes I keep marketing, sometimes I write, sometimes I do a puzzle, sometimes I have errands, sometimes I go to lunch. I am a night writer, so I learned that when I was teaching. I couldn't write during the day. I can write in 5 minutes. I can write 300 words anywhere I am. I can write on my phone. So for me, my day is kind of fluid. I know I need to write at certain times. I try to get at least 1 writing session before evening now. If I don't do one writing session before evening, then I can only do 3 chapters at night. And then that's not quite enough if I'm really kind of under a deadline. But typically I write in the afternoon. My best time to write is between 2 and 5. I love to write between 2 and 5. And then I take the dogs to the park. I do dinner, blah, blah, blah. I'm back on the computer around 8. And right now, this is my schedule. I've been writing from 2 to 5. And then I write in the afternoon, in the evening, from like 8 until 1, 2 in the morning. And so then, I'm not getting up early anymore. So I might get up at 8:30 or 9 now. I'm on the treadmill maybe by 10. So I'm kind of jacked up. But if my daughter was still going to school, I'd be in bed by 11 instead of 1 or 2. So I think everything just shifted 3 hours later. But yeah, I probably write 5-6 hours a day, write my 10, 12,000 words. I do marketing, probably at least 2 hours a day. Always 1 in the morning. I analyze my data every morning, my income, my spend, my page reads, what can I do, tweak, adjust, take ads down, put ads up, adjust budgets, blah, blah. I do that for an hour. And then I usually come back to it at some point in the day, check on things, make plans for an upcoming promotion, start to plan a promotion for 3 months from now, check on releases, check on all kinds of stuff like that. So I probably do another hour, maybe 2 during the day for that. I'm really trying to only work 8 hours a day. Okay. So it's very at home to work. Yeah. So.
And now rapid fire, we got some questions. I had lost track that we were getting a bunch of questions because they were below the fold, as it may be. So how do you keep your books and your genre fresh?
This is a really hard one. People ask this a lot because I basically write the same book over and over and over again in romance. It's the same. They meet, they fall in love, they break up, they get back together. It's the same thing over and over again. So what I found that I need to do is that all comes through character. So for me, specifically in romance, the readers know what they want in this genre. The plot is not necessarily going to have twists. I'm not looking to write a plot twisty book, but what I want them to do is fall in love with my characters. So I really try to make my hero and my heroine the very best that I can and make them different from each other. So I've put in things like goat yoga, which I went and did my own self, which was really fun. So I put in goat yoga. I do things like cow cuddling. I make sure my characters have big things they want to do. So my book that's coming out in the next couple of weeks, he wants to visit every state in the country. So he goes on this big, 50-state road trip. I try to make sure that they have many and varied pasts, bad pasts, good pasts. I just try to really make sure that they are distinct. So I fill out a pretty massive spreadsheet for every book that I write as part of my outlining process that has a column for the hero and a column for the heroine, and it has everything about them, things they like, things they don't like, pets, issues, flaws, family members, profession, what they need, what they want, something distinct about them. So, I've got guys who are experts at fracking and guys who are, have run billion-dollar businesses, and guys who, are veterinarians. I did one guy who was a forensic veterinarian. So he testifies in court about cases on farms, which I'd never heard of. I just try to do anything I can beyond she owns a bakery and her boyfriend broke up with her and he's a cowboy. Like, yeah. I'm not bagging on anyone who owns a bakery. I've written a book about a woman who owns a bakery too, but every Hallmark movie I look at, I'm like, yeah, she owns a bakery or a pet shop. I'm like, what else is there? So I really try hard to do, there's other things, just in case you're wondering. I really try hard to bring all that freshness to the character so that they can drive their own story, which we know it's going to end. But I really try to bring that freshness through the character as much as possible.
I don't think you're sweet romance at all, because guys who are good at fracking, of course, I'm a Battlestar Galactica fan, so yeah. Next question: how can I drive more people to my newsletter from inside of my book? I get most of my free reader magnet, and they aren't clicking or reading more. And from my perspective, if they aren't reading more, and I got this as well, I put a reader magnet out there. I'm like, hey, I got a short story, ain't doing anything. It was not representative of my books. It was just something fun that I had for free. Don't do that. So I learned that the hard way. I had a bunch of people download it, and then they never stayed on because it wasn't representative of everything else I wrote. So I went through all of my short stories. I have like 20, 25 short stories to pick from. I picked my very best ones, and 5 of them, and that's my onboarding sequence, with my very best ones of those 5. And then I went back and I rewrote them to make them even better because I wanted them represent, and that has changed the dynamic rather significantly on people clicking through to then read my book. So it's not me, it's you. Yeah, okay. And you have to look at it from all perspectives. This is your business hat. This isn't, Craig being a dick. It's look at it with your business hat. Is this story representative of my books? And if it is, and they're not reading, then maybe you're targeting the wrong audience as opposed to blanket freebie seekers. There are those, but if you target them, I narrow my ads for stuff I give away for free, make them very specific to this audience, and I do just fine. I probably get upwards anywhere from 2 to 10%. So so you need numbers, you need big downloads, but drive to the newsletter. The first thing you can do is you have the best damn book and the best story where they say, I got to read more. That's the single number one thing you can do to drive people to sign up for your newsletter.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I agree with what you said as well. So I've made a lot of mistakes in my career. So Liz, I don't know if she's just lucky or what, but she started publishing in September, and I didn't put a reader magnet out until the next June, I think. And it's a story in my series. It's doesn't take place before the series or anything like that, but it's been doing the job for about 4 years. And I've realized through Elana, actually, who didn't do that, she did kind of what Craig did. She took a story she had that was semi-indicative of what you're going to get in her books, and she offered it as a reader magnet. And it hasn't gone well. and I don't really get a lot of people on my Elana newsletter, and I can't really get them to read through to anything. It's just an isolated story that's not related to anything else you can find in my brand. And I wrote it as part of an anthology because people were doing this beach romance. I was like, yeah, sure, I can write one. And I was like, oh, I'll use it as a reader magnet now that the anthology is down. And I haven't gotten the results that I wanted. So what Elana is doing right now is what a part of her 12,000 word count yesterday was writing. I'm writing a new reader magnet that actually feeds into a core series that I want people to then go on and buy. So I'm redoing it. So I have to do that for Elana. And then I thought to myself, you know what, Liz should do this too. So that big series I talked about earlier in the interview that's been my winner the last 8 months, guess what? I just wrote a 35,000 word novella on the parents, because it's this family saga that I just talked about, and everyone loves the parents. We want to see Penny and Gideon. We love them. Well, guess what? That's going to be my reader magnet. And I'm going to replace my old reader magnet with this new reader magnet probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then that way, that reader magnet pushes people to a paid book one. And then that paid book one that has, 90% read through and is 80,000 words long earns me money and it gets me through 6 more books, a 7-book series. So I don't want it to sound harsh, but maybe your reader magnet is not what it should be. Because I know for Elana it's not. And I know that Liz's reader magnet is outdated and also not doing the job. But it is hard to look at that and go, it's me. I got to do something different. So it's you got to do something different.
Whether that's something different is targeting the right readers to download that free book, or it's make sure that free book is representative of and leads them to a place where I got to know more.
I've got to read the next book. I'll buy it. I want to be on this girl's newsletter list or whoever's newsletter list because I liked this book. I like these characters. And she's got a whole series that will expand this. And I really want to stay around with this person for a while.
You bet. You bet. Another question. Do you run ads to your audiobooks or focus on the ebooks?
So I do add the audiobook links and things to some of my Facebook ads. And Book Club just came out with audiobook ads as well. Sure. And I started one of those Friday, I think. So audio is something that I'm really focusing on right now. It's one way that I am just expanding my areas of revenue. So, most of my stuff comes from ebooks, obviously, but I've really been focused on getting all of my ebooks in paperback, which is not something that I have done, especially my shorter ones. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get all of my assets in as many formats as possible so that I have as many lanes of revenue coming in as I can. So audio is something that I've been really focusing on and trying to grow as well. BookFunnel is a great place to do that because you can put up audio samples and use them like you would ebook samples to get people to listen to your audio, to join an audio newsletter. So I've been working on all of that stuff. Just like I get people to join my quote unquote ebook newsletter, I want them on an audiobook specific newsletter, which I've segmented out that I can also email when I get new audiobooks. So I do, yes.
And audiobooks, on that note, I had a 10,000 word short story. Well, it's a novelette that did really well. And I had said, hey, I asked my narrator, you got any time for an 1.5 hour long story? And he did it up for me. And then I posted on BookFunnel for free. So get a free audiobook. And then that fed them into an audio only list. So it doesn't, and that is, I don't even announce new releases because generally I don't even know when a new release comes out. But when Chirp has a sale on one of my books, I'll funnel it through there and say, hey, US only. You got to make sure you make that note. As I found out the hard way, that Chirp is US only, but that's a big and growing audiobook audience. So that's a good thing. We're at almost 70 minutes, so I know there's some good questions here, and it'd be good to keep going, but we've got lives, and we got Elana up early for this, so now she has accelerated her day 2 hours in advance. She's going to get so many words done. And the dogs are going to get an extra walk, and just life is going to be roses. And especially the weather's perfect there, 40-some degrees, you said. So it doesn't get any better than that.
You're right. It really doesn't.
and it's a blessing to be able to work from home and still
Yeah.
make good money and help people. Like you said, your sister's having hey, here, do this for me. Here's money. And
Yep.
without giving money away, you're helping people. And that's those folks who bag on successful authors. Hey, you're just lucky. We pay a lot of people. I paid for 2 covers and various things yesterday, and my editor, hey, I'm going to send her this 10,000 word short story after it gets through my beta readers today, and say, hey, here you go, revenue for her, and all of these things that it's not our success helps other people be successful and move their words forward, because we have a bunch of people who edit. And, oh, by the way, they write too. So get those editing gigs, keep food on the table while they're writing their books as additional revenue streams. So uh, uh, being good at your job, Elana started in traditional publishing and continued to up her game by reading, researching, and specifically learning the skills that made her successful, and continues to work towards those. And you look at that, you're making 6 figures a month, and you're working, 5-6 days a week, about 12 hours a day generally, that you're engaged in some way. Why are you still doing that? So because I'm not at the top of my game yet. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. And I love writing, and I love the marketing. I really do. I like both of them. So for me, I really do. I love the writing. I love to sit down and write the cowboy romance. And then I think, okay, who else would love this? And I try to find them. So
I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of 7-figure authors, and every single one that I met, what made them different from a mid 6-figure author was they embraced the business part and really got into it. Not just, I do what I have to get my books into as many hands as possible. No, they embrace the business and look at it from that perspective, as well as then put on the creative hat and write great stories. So it's that balance. It's the business hat. It's the creative hat. You have your day worked out, and I have my day worked out too. So tomorrow we'll
lots of
have another guest. I don't know who it is right now. I'm sure I have something lined up. Anyway, you guys have a great day, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Craig.
Elana. Thank you very much.